Ladies and gentlemen, we'll get started again. Continue to enjoy your meal. It's my pleasure to introduce a very distinguished individual. I'd like to welcome to the stage Regent Rick Treychok, who is the chair of the Board of Regents here in Nevada. Regent Treychok has served on the board since 2011 and has served as chairman of the board since 2015. If I can get your attention, please, everybody. Regent Treychok is a senior partner at Lewis Roca Rothgerber in Reno. He's been admitted into the practice of law in Nevada, Washington, D.C., and New York, focusing his practice on regulatory and gaming law, utility regulation, and commercial law. He's been recognized as one of Nevada's top international gaming and regulatory law attorneys in the Nevada Business Journal. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Regent Rick Treychok.
Good evening. Sorry to interrupt your dinner. As some of you may know, we will be losing President Wells to New Mexico Tech University in June. President Wells has served with distinction as the president of DRI, taking us to where we are today. And so I think it would be fitting and appropriate for all of us to give President Wells a standing ovation to thank him for his work. New Mexico's gain is Nevada's loss. And Dr. Wells, on behalf of my colleagues on the Board of Regents, I want to thank you for everything that you've done for DRI and for the state of Nevada. We appreciate it greatly. All of us here tonight recognize that DRI is a unique and treasured asset in Nevada. As a standalone research institute that has tackled pressing problems in environmental sciences for over 50 years, it occupies a special place amongst our colleges and universities. DRI is home to some of the best scientists on the planet, and the Nevada Medal Dinner is a unique opportunity to highlight the global community of scientists. Everyone here tonight plays an important role for DRI. We all attend not just to hear these really cool scientists, and let me tell you, tonight with Dr. Cummings, it's going to be really cool, but we're here to show our commitment to DRI and its mission. It's notable that here in Nevada, we have one of the largest and most respected groups of hydrological scientists in the United States. They are monitoring and modeling our water supply to help our community members, like farmers and ranchers, become more resilient to the impacts of climate change. Climate and water issues are impacting the world with more certainty and severity each year. DRI's focus on these issues and its ability to obtain funding for independent research operations is very important for the state of Nevada. Indeed, DRI needs to become the place where scientists from around the world come to study climate and hydrology and the impact on our planet. As we all are aware, DRI's scientists generate almost all of their funding for their research through federal, state, and private grants. It is due to this very nature of its business model that DRI receives so little focus and so little private support. Yet today, DRI needs each of you more than ever, as public sector funding for research has been declining at the federal level for the last 8 years. At the same time, DRI is not a degree-granting institution and does not have a formal alumni network like our universities and our colleges. Its alumni are each and every one of you here tonight and all of us in Nevada. All of us benefit from DRI's research in understanding our climate, weather, energy, and water issues. It is incumbent upon each one of us, the Board of Regents, members of the Foundation, and supporters to help position DRI for this changing fiscal environment, an environment where traditional research funding sources will continue to be much more challenging. While public sector support remains essential, greater reliance on private partners and private resources is now required. The time has come to start building a major privately funded science endowment to propel our community on this path. To expand our role as stewards of this great state and to benefit the next generation of Nevadans. So again, on behalf of my colleagues on the Board of Regents, we want to thank each and every one of you, and we look forward to working together with each of you as we face these challenges ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Regent Trachok, for those kind words and those supporting words. Really deeply appreciate that. And thank all of you. I'd like to welcome to the stage now Chuck Cray, who serves as chairman of the DRI Research Foundation. He's president of New Market Advisors, one of Nevada's leading retail real estate companies for more than 25 years. He's been a good friend and a great leader for us. As you know, the foundation is sort of our friend and fundraising arm, and each year they host this event. So please welcome to the stage Chuck Cray.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wells. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, on behalf of all of us serving on the DRI Foundation, it's my special pleasure to welcome you and to thank all of you very, very much for making the effort to be here tonight. Your support demonstrates your belief in what DRI does for Nevada, the nation, and the world. As you read through the 2015 DRI annual report that's on your table and you saw earlier through the inspiring video, DRI is a world leader in investigating the effects of natural and human-induced environmental change and advancing environmental technologies aimed at assessing our changing planet. The Foundation's mission is to maximize DRI's global environmental impact by securing funding, promoting DRI to multiple constituencies, and expanding DRI's reach. The Foundation trustees are an impressive group of volunteers representing business and industry from all walks of life, and it is my honor to serve as the board chair. Tonight's dinner would not be possible without the support of this year's presenting sponsor, Switch SuperNap, Switch stepped up with a $50,000 donation, and this is the third year in the row that Switch SuperNap has supported the DRI Nevada Medal, and we are very, very honored and grateful for them here tonight. The SuperNap is the world's leader in data center ecosystem design, development, and mission-critical operations, providing unrivaled, independent solutions for co-location, connectivity, cloud, and collaborative ecosystems. They recently broke ground on the new SuperNap campus in the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center in northern Nevada. This will have 7 buildings totaling 6.5 million square feet. It's a $3 billion investment and will be the largest in the world once it's completed. And that one gets a clap. I would personally like to thank Missy Young, the Switch SuperNap Executive VP of Sales, and who we are very fortunate to have as a trustee of the foundation as well as Rob Roy, the CEO and founder of Switch, and the rest of his team who are here with us tonight. Thank you very much, Switch. There are four. Yay. There are four additional major sponsors who have each contributed $25,000 to support the 2016 Nevada Medal. I would like to recognize Barrick Gold, the E.L. Cord Foundation, Robert Lewis and the Lewis Group of Companies, and Van Scoik and Associates. We would also like to thank all of this year's gold and silver sponsors who have also generously contributed to this year's event. Yeah. It's now my pleasure to welcome back Dr. Wells. There he is.
Thank you, Chuck, and thanks all of you. Every time you come here every year, you provide support to the DRI's mission, and really appreciate that. I would like to take my own personal privilege and thank the trustees of the DRI Foundation for all they've done over my 16 years of presidency. They have worked very diligently to help secure critical funding for our faculty, their projects, for our institutions, equipment, and remodeling in many cases, adding money that made it possible to add a wing to one of our buildings. So they've done a lot for us, and so if I could get all of the trustees of our wonderful foundation to stand and be recognized this evening. Please, trustees and fellows, stand. Now I'd like to take time to recognize some very special guests we have here, elected officials and leaders in higher education who are in attendance. So I'm going to say this, but I know it's not going to work, so hold your applause to the end. That's not going to happen. But let me start off with someone who's made it very special for us to have the Nevada Medal for the past 5 years, and that's Governor Brian Sandoval. Thank you. It's great to have you here. Former Governor Bob Miller and First Lady Sandy Miller. Former Governor and Senator Richard Bryan. I know you're out there. Representing Senator Harry Reid Camber, Devon. Camber, are you here? Representing Senator Dean Heller, Andrew Lingenfelter. Andrew, I know you're somewhere there. Representing Congressman Crescent Hardy, Charles Navarro. Charles. Representing Congresswoman Dina Titus, Michael Naft. I saw you, Michael. Representing Congressman Joe Heck, Matt Taylor. Matt. Not here. Yep. Governor's Office of Economic Development Executive Director and been a great partner for DRI, Steve Hill. Steve. Chair of the Board of Regents, Rick Trachok. Regent Allison Stevens. Regent Cedric Creer. Regent Michael Wixom. And former Regent Mark Alden. Thank you, Mark, for being here. State Senator Mo Dennis, representing District 2. State Senator Aaron Ford, representing District 11. I know he's here, so. State Senator Joe Hardy, representing District 12. Assemblywoman Victoria Dooling. Clark County Commissioner Steve Sisolak, representing District A. Clark County Commissioner Mary Beth Scow, representing District G. North Las Vegas Mayor John Lee. Faraday man. North Las Vegas Councilman Richard Churchillo. I hope I got that right. Up there. North Las Vegas Councilwoman Pamela Goins Brown. City of Henderson Councilwoman Deborah March, representing Ward 2. Honorable Judge Richard Boulware. And Nevada State College President Bart Patterson. Bart, good friend. Now, I'd like to do a special shout out. I know our governor will too, but I want to mention these schools who have kids here in attendance, because I think this is the future generation of this state. And I have to thank the governor for the leadership that he's put in to K through 12 education and higher education. It's been outstanding, Governor. So we have here students, and the students, if you can just shout out and stand up. Sandy Miller Elementary School. Gilbert Middle School. Sunrise Mountain High School. Hyde Park Middle School. Skybot Challenge students. And thank you to the Wynn Resorts for hosting students at your table as well. Thank you all, and I hope I didn't miss anybody, but great to have all of the students here. So I also want to just point out, too, that it's my pleasure to recognize Senator Harry Reid and Lieutenant Governor Mark Hutchinson for their letters of commendation to Dr. Cummings regarding her military service and research accomplishments. Most of our funding right now, and as you heard Chair Trachok say, comes from federal funding, and it's very critical to us, and we deeply appreciate the delegation for all they do for our institution. I want to thank Senators Harry Reid and Dean Heller for everything that they've done, as well as those in Congress, Mark Amadei, Dina Titus, Joe Heck, and Kristen Hardy. Thank you for all that you've done for us. My personal thanks to Switch, who now, after 3 years in a row, have been our presenting sponsors. Rob Roy, Missy, thank you very much for your generosity. And before I introduce our great governor, Brian Sandoval, I want to acknowledge the special role that governors have played in the Nevada Medal since its inception in 1988. Both Bob and Sandy Miller have been active supporters of DRI since the days in the Governor Mansion where they hosted the scientists there. And as they've done over the past several years, they welcomed our medalists to the Sandy Miller Elementary School, which I have to tell you, these kids rock. And they're all being signed up to work for DRI. And then most remarkably, as Governor Sandoval has continued this wonderful tradition, for the 5th year straight, Governor Sandoval has given 3 nights to DRI, Tuesday, Wednesday, and tonight. I can't thank you enough, Governor. But I would like to express, before the governor comes up here, my special thanks to his steadfast support of DRI and for what he's doing to the state in terms of converting it into a new Nevada. I've traveled with him on trade missions around the world. In China, he spent a week with us building relationships and making things work for us with the highest levels he could in China. And I've never seen a person work so hard. If you think there's a vacation with these trade missions, let me tell you, they're 18-hour days and working very hard. For me, it's been a pleasure to know what I consider a true leader in the state of Nevada, and you are very much, Governor, so you are a true leader, and it's my pleasure to introduce to the stage Governor Brian Sandoval, great state of Nevada.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. It really is a privilege and honor to share this evening with you. Dr. Wells, thank you very much for the very kind introduction. You know, first and foremost, I too want to thank our sponsors for tonight, Switch, Missy Young, Adam Kramer, Rob. I wish Rob was here tonight. But it's really cool to be going on these trade missions and say we have the largest data center on planet Earth. So thank you for your being in a great Nevada company. And thank you to all our other sponsors as well. I also want to acknowledge the students that are here. I had the opportunity to visit with them and look at their projects, and you'd be so proud of them. I hope all of you took the time to be with them and see what they're doing. And you know, these are what I call the generations to come. And I like to say what happens in our schools today is going to determine the future of our state. And if they're anything like these kids that are with us tonight, our future is very, very bright. So give them another big hand. And I also, you know, while we're talking about education, a really exciting thing happened in Las Vegas today, or actually in Henderson. We broke ground on the first school, the first elementary school of 35 new elementary schools, 2 high schools, and 15 replacement schools, a $4.1 billion public education investment like anything that we haven't seen. And I want to thank our legislators who are here with us today to pass that bond rollover so we can have a great public education system. I'd also like to acknowledge our guardsmen and women that are with us tonight. Tomorrow I'm going to be attending a deployment ceremony where we're going to be sending many of our own overseas to the Middle East, and I hope that you will keep them in your thoughts and in your prayers. But we also have these airmen and women that are with us tonight, and I like to call them the pride of Nevada. So give them a big hand for their service to our country. God bless you guys. You know, we're here and it's a lot of fun to look at these drones, but it brings back some memories for me. I mean, it was 3 years ago that we first applied for that FAA designation, and we never thought it possible that Nevada would be considered as one of those 6 sites. We were competing against 40 other states to make this a reality. And I remember when that piece of paper first hit my desk, and I thought, wow, we have the opportunity to be on the ground floor of a new industry. We have the airmen and women from Creech Air Force Base. We have the most airspace in the United States of America. We have great universities, and we have the Desert Research Institute. So we put those applications together, and fortunately we were one of 6 to be selected. And in a few short years, here we are tonight featuring Nevada. I mean, I know I'm biased, but I think we're the best in the country. And so I mean, you're going to hear from Dr. Cummings, and Dr. Cummings, I meant to welcome you as well. You're going to be stunned by the presentation that she has today. Many of you may or may not know that she has been both to Southern Nevada and Northern Nevada in her tours of duty, so I think that makes you one of us. So welcome home. But there's been a couple great announcements and great accomplishments that we've had in the state associated with the drones and the unmanned aerial systems. You may have read up north that at the Stead Airport that we now have a relationship with NASA. And that was something that happened with the assistance of DRI. In a little town called Hawthorne, Nevada, population 3,000. We got some folks from Hawthorne. In the first package delivery in an urban area in the history of aviation happened in Hawthorne, Nevada, a month and a half ago. And I personally want to thank Drone America. They're going to be working with this cloud seeding program, and I am truly honored and humbled about that drone and the Sandoval Cedar, I think it's called, but I just hope it brings a lot of rain and snow to our state. So very excited about that. But just a little more about DRI, and I've had the opportunity to travel with the scientists and Dr. Wells through many countries, and it really does give our trade missions the credibility that we need when we meet with these foreign dignitaries and make these presentations. I have a memory, I had the opportunity to see the Terracotta Warriors in Xi'an Province in China. And though, as you know, this is one of the most important heritage sites in the world. And to preserve those is incredibly important. And we had the opportunity to go on the floor and be right next to those Terracotta Warriors. But what was a very proud moment for me was to walk up and see a bank of equipment, air pollution equipment, and guess whose logo is on that air pollution equipment? DRI. DRI is at the forefront of air pollution control on the planet. We had a trade mission and we were in Italy. And I recall meeting in a small room with some government officials, and we talked about a program that DRI has in Ghana. And we talked about the impact that it's making. You saw it on the video, in the introductory video earlier this evening, and to provide potable drinking water for these families. It is a game changer for all of them. Well, this was a meeting at the Vatican, and I always believe that great things come from small things, but we just found out 2 days ago that Catholic Relief Services is going to provide a grant to expand what is happening in Ghana because of what DRI is doing. So give them a big hand for that. So it is an honor and privilege to serve as your governor. I personally want to thank all the scientists and staff at DRI, the leadership. We really are lucky. We have a gift here in the state of Nevada to have an institution like this. And before I give the microphone back to Dr. Wells, on Tuesday night we had a similar celebration of DRI in northern Nevada. And Governor Miller and Senator Bryant can appreciate this. One of the great things of being governor is you get to draft proclamations. So many of you may not be aware of this, but Tuesday was Dr. Stephen Wells Day in the state of Nevada. And I'm going to miss Dr. Wells' leadership. I'm going to, most importantly, miss his friendship and his commitment to the people of the state of Nevada. I agree, Nevada's loss is New Mexico's gain. And, I guess we got to share the wealth a little bit with someone who's as talented as Dr. Wells. But I do have with me from the Office of the Governor, a certificate of recognition on behalf of the people of the great state of Nevada to recognize Dr. Wells, who I like to describe as a Nevada hero. So Dr. Wells, this is for you. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you, and God bless the great state of Nevada.
The governor continues to surprise me every night, so I'm deeply, deeply touched. We're going to move on to the program, the presentation of the 2016 Nevada Medal. This is one of the highest achievements that anyone can receive in scientific and engineering given by our state. So you should be proud that this state now has the name of giving one of the highest awards recognized nationally because of the collection of scientists and engineers who've received this. It represents what we hold at DRI in high value, highly publicized, innovative, award-winning research that has led to monumental change the way we think, the way we live, the way we view science and engineering. The Nevada Medal is given to someone whose scientific and engineering contributions and achievements have profoundly advanced their profession, influenced the way we think about our planet, and served humankind. Can you hear me now? Is that better? This year, DRI is honored to present the 2016 Nevada Medal to Dr. Missy Cummings, who I mentioned earlier. Missy. She is one of the Navy's first aviators. She has written a book called The Hornet's Nest, which is a compelling and often shocking account of the discrimination and hostile environment she encountered in the fighter community. She became a naval aviator shortly after the combat exclusion policy was repealed in 1993, and she reached the rank of lieutenant before retiring from the service in 1999. And again, thank you for your service. Thank you very much. Dr. Cummings attended the U.S. Naval Academy, graduating with a BS in mathematics in 1988. She received her master's degree in space science engineering from the Naval Postgraduate School in 1994 and her PhD in systems engineering from the University of Virginia in 2003. Her teaching experience includes that for the U.S. Navy in Penn State, an assistant professor at Virginia Tech in Engineering Fundamentals Division, and as an associate professor of aeronautics and astronautics at MIT. It was during her time as a naval aviator that she recognized that a plane could actually fly itself, and potentially it would shoot and take care of the ammo itself and do both of these better and more precisely than she could. And in that case, her job was in jeopardy. She accepted the fact that technology was going to change the world dramatically, and so she left her career in the Navy and decided to move into research and academia. Dr. Cummings is a full professor recently at Duke University. Congratulations. And her work as the director of Humans and Autonomy Lab at Duke University is focused on human interactions with unmanned autonomous systems, and you'll see some of that tonight. She's become a very strong public advocate for promotion of responsible use of drone technology and related policies for both the military and for the growing commercial and civilian industries. Dr. Cummings is a fellow of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics and has served on several national committees, including the U.S. Air Force Scientific and Advisory Board Committee for UAVs in Irregular Warfare, the Stimson Commission on U.S. Drone Policy, the National Research Council's Board of Human Systems Integration, and NASA Advisory Council's Aeronautics Committee. In 2014, Dr. Cummings' accomplishments were recognized at Duke University by giving her the Thomas Langford Lectureship Award. She's appeared on some really cool things like The Daily Show, the TED Stage, and even testified before Congress on the dramatic impact these technologies are having on our society. So will you please join me in welcoming Dr. Missy Cummings, where we'll give the award. Governor Missy Cummings. Missy Young, please escort her. Our Nevada medalist.
Yes, for sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry I'm losing my voice. I've just been talking nonstop almost for 3 days. So if I could get somebody to bring me some water, somebody out there. So thank you so much. It is such an honor to be here, and I have been overwhelmed with the response of everyone, both in Reno and Las Vegas. And I have to tell you, it's been overwhelming, and I really appreciate the outpouring of support and recognition from the state of Nevada, which of course I've spent a lot of time in. And I always like to try to relay my connection to a particular place. And I was searching through my memory And of course, I've spent way too much time at the casinos, and those stories are probably boring to you. And so I really wasn't sure what I was going to tell you about my connection to Las Vegas was until this morning. I'm on East Coast time, which means that I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I can't go to sleep. So I decided that I was going to get up, and this is what I always do when I come to Vegas. I get up and I walk the Strip, and I walked from here to DRI. And so I'm walking down the road that DRI is on, where you turn right off the Strip, and all of a sudden, I am in a movie. There is some movie being shot, and there's crew, but I wasn't sure what was going on first. It's like people who are looking like they are like out of Detroit, and all the bling bling, and all these people, and all this movement, and I didn't know what was happening. And the next thing, I'm caught up in this Tupac movie, Eyes on Me, that's like, I'm like, how does this happen? And, I'm not wearing any makeup, and I'm not wearing these cute heels, I'm like, I don't want to be in this. And then I started asking some people what was going on, and then the next thing you know, the crew is trying to get me to go out drinking with them. They're like, we're just getting off work. Come on, let's go party. I was like, would that be bad to go to Sandy Miller after I've been drinking a little bit? That'd be bad. So I wanted to say to Sandy Miller, I want you to appreciate the sacrifice. I could be out, yes? I could have been really ripping it up till gosh knows when with the crew of the Tupac movie and some famous, I'm so lame, there's some famous person next to me. I don't even know who that was. I never did get a name. I wouldn't know him anyway. So Las Vegas does carry that, something crazy happens to you in Las Vegas. And I will say, but even better than almost being in the Tupac movie was going to the Sandy Miller Elementary School today. And so I have to tell you, it's just an amazing, amazing event. I am an educator. I come from a long line of educators, mostly elementary school educators, and so I really appreciate and I can feel how much work was put in. Basically, my entire life was on Showcase before me. I am asking Sandy and her team did such a good job. The young little girls who were spitting back the FAA regulations like nobody's business. I'm trying to convince Sandy to turn that into a PSA announcement so that we can send it out, because my students don't know it as well as the Sandy Miller students do. So Sandy, I really want to thank you for it. It was such a wonderful experience. Thank you for putting that together. So you've heard about my Navy career, and there's one other thing that I think that people in this room need to know about my Navy career and becoming one of the first fighter pilots, that it's inextricably linked to Las Vegas. So I actually am of that generation that went to the tailhook parties here in Las Vegas. Now, some of you are too young to know what that's about. I'll let you Google it later. But safe to say, and let me tell you, I've been to some big parties in the world, and the Tupac crew could not hold a candle to what was going on in Las Vegas when I was at Tailhook. And I was not one of the women who was molested at Tailhook. I am glad that cell phone cameras were not around then, because I think it's probably more the other way around in terms of what was going on. I mean, I was certainly not a victim, much more like the aggressor. And if you read my book, there's some funny stories in there about some of the things that were going on. But Tailhook actually, I know it seems like a black eye to Las Vegas, but it actually carried, it's such an event of import that I don't really think that you understand how important that event was in my life. Because when the whole Tailhook event happened, if you weren't there, there was just this huge political outcry. Lots of women were molested by naval aviators. It was a terrible scandal for the Navy. It didn't look good. But what it did is it forced the political conversation about women in combat. So this happened in 1991. And then for the next 2 years, there was such intense debate, and that whole event raised the whole issue of women in combat so quickly that is why the combat exclusion law was repealed at that time. If tailhook had not happened at that time, I think eventually women would have been allowed into combat, but it wouldn't have happened as quickly as it did, and I would not be standing here before you telling you that I flew this fighter plane, right? So I think it's hard for us. I think we get so caught up in the negativity of a moment, and nobody ever like closes the loop with you and tell you, you know, tailhook, it was a bad thing, and it was, you know, it was a social revolution that had to happen inside the military. And if it wasn't for that bad thing, then I wouldn't have ended up doing this good thing. And this good thing was flying the F-18 Hornet. And this is a plane that is a fighter bomber. So it carries guns on it that fire 3,000 rounds per minute. I don't care who you are. I cannot tell you how wonderful the just raw power of testosterone going through your body when you're firing 3,000 rounds per minute. It's an amazing feeling. And it drops bombs. That's what a fighter pilot does. But I know I have many Air Force people in the audience, so I'm going to insult you now. So just stand by, and it's not going to stop, by the way. So you know, the Air Force has fighter pilots too. But what makes Navy fighter pilots better than everyone else, especially Air Force pilots, is the aircraft carrier, right? Thank you. I have to tell you, the funny thing is, when I was at MIT for 10 years, it's very intimidating to be at MIT because I would be in meetings with like Marvin Minsky on one side and Noam Chomsky on the other side, and I'd be thinking, oh my God, these guys are so smart. I think, you know, but they never landed a plane on an aircraft carrier, so that's pretty good. So, it is the most manly thing in the Navy. Thank you, with these heels. Manly, very manly. And I loved it, but I flew A-Force first, and they were a completely manual plane, no computers in this plane. And then I transitioned to the F-18, and when I got to that carrier for the first time and saw what was happening on F-18s, I was like, whoa, this is not good. Because the F-18 has a couple of buttons, and it's literally just a couple of buttons, and then you can basically take your hands off, and it lands itself perfect every time. Most pilots keep their hands near the controls just in case anything goes wrong, but that hardly ever happens. But it was very disturbing to me to see that these planes could land themselves by themselves on a carrier, which is really what made me the real man of the Navy. But that was bad, but what was worse was going over to the catapult, because you'll land, then they'll taxi you over to the catapult, and then when you're on the catapult, you have to put your hands up, show everyone to the left, I am not touching anything. And then you show everyone on the right side of the carrier, seriously, not touching anything. And then you keep your hands up like you're, you know, in a Tupac movie, and then you hold them, you put them on these handlebars. And then only when everyone is sure that you are not touching everyone else in the carrier, they shoot you off the front. And the reason that is because the F-18 is so close to the stall margin when it hits the end of the carrier that you can actually set up some pilot-induced oscillations that the automation cannot counter. And many people have died off the front of the aircraft carrier in the F-18 because they over-controlled it. So, you know, I'm like, oh, not good. Like, landings are always better by the computer. Not even allowed to touch anything on the takeoff like a 5-year-old. You know, I guess the only real reason that I'm in this plane is so that I can shoot those guns and drop those bombs. And then this thing happened, which is the Tactical Tomahawk missile. This is a picture of it being fired out of a submarine, and it was just starting to come online in the 90s, about the same time that I was flying. But this was in the sea side of the Navy, so it hadn't yet transitioned to aviation. But when I found out about this is a missile that's fired over 1,000 miles from its target with pinpoint, less than a meter precision accuracy. That's way better than any human pilot can do consistently. So I sat back and I'm like, ooh, this is not good, not good. We've got a plane that lands and takes off by itself, and this is in the mid-90s. Missiles that are being launched from over 1,000 miles, deeply stealth, right? I mean, what a submarine could do, F-18 pilot cannot do. Like, these two things are going to come together one day, and I'm going to be out of a job. At the same time, there was all this social upheaval about women being fighter pilots. I can promise you they were not fun times, because it was a very difficult social transition. At some point I said, okay, I've had enough, and I'm going to go back to school. And I went back to school at UVA and got my PhD, and eventually started, I was at MIT for 10 years, and then recently moved my lab to Duke because I'm a mercenary. Duke made me, MIT was fantastic, but Duke made me a really good offer I couldn't refuse. And now my lab, the Humans and Autonomy Lab, is at Duke, and we do work a lot in drones and driverless cars, many technologies that are familiar to you in this crowd. And then a couple of years ago, after I'd moved to Duke, then this amazing thing happened, and it showed you that I was right. This is the an F-18 on a carrier parked right next to an X-47. So you can see in the cockpit here, human. That is not a cockpit, that is actually air intake. There's no human. This plane does the same mission that this plane, and oh, by the way, it's on the aircraft carrier. So this is the future, and in fact, there are many generals who will tell you that the last fighter pilot has been born for this country. There's no question that the planes fly better, and the Air Force itself passed a major milestone that it is actually safer now in terms of accidents. It is safer to send a drone on a fighter bomber mission than it is a human manned mission, right? We're done. It's done. And it's kind of sad, because I know you guys are out there. It's not done today. So everyone in this room still has a job, but it is done for the future. Israel has already said that it's going to go completely drone. The United States won't do that anytime soon, but it eventually will. And there are many other reasons. I give a whole nother lecture on the technical reasons why, and so check that out on YouTube. But this was my transition point, by the way, I'm not good at fortune telling, mostly. Don't ever invest in anything I ever invest in. But this was the one time I did get it right. And then so because I was one of the early researchers in this field, I just rode the wave of being one of the early researchers in drones. So speaking of my early research, so this is a figure from a paper that I wrote about 10 years ago, about a decade ago, which people completely said was silly, that this isn't right. So this is me laying out drones. At that time, we were calling them unmanned aerial vehicles. These are all the missions that you're going to see come out from drones in the next few years. So as the public, you were seeing intelligence, surveillance from predators, drones as targets that we shoot at. That they'd been there for a while. But transport, extraction, lifting things out of something, insertion, putting things in, medical supplies, packages, and then comm relays. These are the ones that have really come up in the last few years. But 10 years ago, when I was writing academic, boring papers trying to tell people that this is coming, and these are the things we need to think about, and these are the design parameters that we're going to need to think about, I was getting articles rejected for being a novelty item. That's actually what I was called, a novelty. I'll show you novelty. Let me just show you how I show you novelty.
Technology has in some ways democratized people's ability to do a tremendous amount of damage. If you can cheaply make a drone and arm it with a missile, things that only a country could do before can be done by individual groups. And not to only discuss the dystopian vision of drones, but is there a division of your office that works only on the perverted use of that?
Well, every technology can be perverted in some way, but I think one of the areas that people don't really think about when we talk about drones are what are going to be their commercial applications. For example, in 5 to 10 years, I think you'll see FedEx, UPS, unmanned aircraft flying our packages around. I'm working on
thank God. I thought you were going in a different direction with what FedEx and UPS were. FedEx, they won't ring on your doorbell anymore. Just boom! Open window, here's your package!
So, what's great about that is that happened, that interview with Jon Stewart happened about a year before Amazon made its big announcement. And, so there's Jon Stewart making fun of me. Oh, package delivery. Guess who's laughing now? Right? And I have to tell you, I'm so annoying. I take great satisfaction in telling you I told you so. So that's where we are. And in fact, one of the funny things about Amazon, who actually made that announcement on my birthday in 2013. So what a great present. And I will tell you, it had a real meaningful effect in my life, because at that point in time, I thought I was going to have to get a restraining order against a couple of FedEx pilots who were really angry that I was going around saying these things. And as soon as Amazon, a big company, started saying them too, then I guess it finally gave them the legitimacy that it's actually coming, and they backed off, and they're leaving me alone now. But so that's what happened. So Amazon, but it's not just Amazon, Walmart, Google, many companies. And by the way, if you're in China, you've been getting packages delivered to you for years in China. So it's only a problem in the U.S. that it's just now starting. Other countries have taken it much further. So what does a researcher do when your whole research field basically goes commercial essentially overnight? Well, it's not really research anymore, because now it's practicing industry. So now I've started to branch out into other areas that are related to the systems of drones. And these are issues that I think are going to be very big in Nevada. A couple of them are air traffic control. Anybody here who is associated with a test site, one of the UAS test sites, I'm your therapist. You can talk to me about the FAA. You can sit on my couch and you can tell me how much the FAA is driving you crazy, and I will validate those feelings for you, right? The FAA has been a very difficult agency to work with, but I think it's important to give them a little understanding, a little empathy. They are there for the safety of the public, and they want to protect the airspace. But I will also tell you that some of the problems with the FAA relate to their deeper psychological pushback. Because I'll tell you, when I was a fighter pilot, in that first group of women, there was a male fighter pilot who we were at the bar. I think we were probably in Fallon, and he was drinking too much. And he said to me something that I will never forget. He said, it's not that I don't want to fly with you, really. I mean, but the problem is that if you can do what I do, if you drop bombs like I do, then what does that make me? And I think that was really poignant at that time, because what this man was saying is, if a girl can do it, then how does that define me? And I actually think that's the same psychological conundrum that we're seeing with the FAA. All of a sudden, if robots can do this, I think it speaks to our humanness. We are actually looking at what does it mean to be human if we can be replaced by a robot. And I think the FAA, being a very conservative organization, being a relatively old organization, I think they have a deeply psychological pushback on some of the issues with drones, which is why it's taking us longer in this country to do than in other countries. But it will get there, right? The biggest leaps that we've been making in air traffic control for drones happened when Google and Amazon got together for that lobby group. And now there's a second lobby group that's kind of spun off from that lobbyist group. So the lobbying, no surprise to people in this room, is a huge push to get this to happen. It will happen, but I also think that the growth of drone industries in other countries is also, I call it the Sputnik factor. It's going to kind of shame us into getting in there, but we will get there. So one day this will happen, but it's a very difficult problem. Another problem that we're going to start to have, which is very near and dear to Nevada, is what I call the drone maintenance issue. Exactly how do we fix these things? If we are going to have a network of drones flying through the country, then we actually have to have a completely different maintenance paradigm than we have now. But how do we treat it now? It's actually very ad hoc. And as you see in this picture, which I love to show for what not to do at home, kids from Sandy Miller, don't let me catch you doing this. What do we got back here? There is nothing better than getting a little drunk and then fixing an aircraft, right? I mean, makes total sense, right? Just relaxes you a little bit, right? I mean, but we kind of laugh, but in fact, drone maintenance is a completely new ballgame. We have very clear certification standards for manned aircraft, but this is a toy, right? It's a toy, isn't it? No, I mean, this is, the funny thing about drones are it's really blurred the line between toy and operational vehicle. And if we're going to start really using these at the scale that Amazon Prime and Walmart and other companies really want to use them at, then we're going to have to come up with new ways of thinking about fixing them, the logistics supply chain. And these are actually many areas that I think Nevadans could be working on. And some of you are actually. Certainly I found that out after Tuesday night at Reno. There's some other applications of drones that we're starting to see, and you've heard a little bit about DRI, and that's, of course, wildlife conservation. I want to tell you a little bit about this trip that I just got back from Africa to put all this in perspective and to tell you why it's not as easy as it sounds. So this is a 3D robotics iris that it's a commercial off-the-shelf drone, $300-400. But in my lab, we basically modified it, mounted a couple of different cameras. But what makes my work unique is basically designing brand new control stations that really simplify and make the drone operation much less confusing. This is an iPad mini where literally anyone can pick up this iPad mini with only basic cell phone experience, and this includes people in Africa, right? Because we're trying to put this technology in the hands of, in this case, the eco guards from Gabon, Africa, to make it so easy for them to use. Now, let me tell you a little funny thing that happened today. And in fact, where does this inspiration come from? So I've been doing drones so long. One of the problems with when you operate drones are the orientation of the drone. Up and down is pretty easy, but forward and backwards is actually, and the rotation for heading can actually be, it's very confusing. And one of the things I tell my own students are, I want you to put a big sticker on the front of the drone to show me what is the front of the drone, because you need to know that when you go forward and back, what the front of the drone is, right? I teach this every day. I lecture my own students in my lab. So I'm at Sandy Miller today, and they give me a DJI Phantom. And I'm like, oh, to fly. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, because, I've just been flying them. Like, literally, earlier this week in my lab, I was flying them from some rich donors that I'm trying to, really impressing them. And so she gives me the DJI Phantom. I'm like, all right, well, looks a lot like this. How different could it be? Well, it turns out I didn't check front back. I took it off, I went forward, and it shot backwards, and I basically mowed the lawn of Sandy Miller. Did I not, everyone? Yes, absolutely. But what's so funny about that is that whole incident at Sandy Miller, it is those exact kind of moments in my life that inspired me to do this in the first place. Because if you have to understand what the orientation of your drone is, and you actually need any training, that's actually not a scalable cost model. So making these interfaces, and that actually shows you how lazy I am. I'm just used to flying these things on my iPhone. I'm too lazy to do the joystick stuff. That takes way too much effort. So we did this for this small drone, took it to Africa so that we could help them monitor elephants. And this is, you're seeing a mama elephant and a baby elephant here, and here's the drone coming up after them. And this is the team. These are the eco guards. These are my students, and this is my 8-year-old daughter. That's pretty cool to be the daughter of a professor that takes you over to Africa. And so we had a great first half of the trip. So for the first half of the trip, we were flying over elephants, trying to get some good footage, see how much we could see. And what you're seeing here, this is a circle we drew in the sand. We were next to a lake. This is a picture after the drone took off and then landed again. And right here, and right here, and right here are the original 4-prong indents. And so what the operator did is there's just one takeoff button. He hits takeoff, and it goes to the waypoint, and then he hit land whenever he was ready. And then it landed itself with such precision that it came back to the circle, really just inches from. So we're like, whoa, we did right, we are rock stars. And it was lunch, so we took lunch, and then we went out to go monitor some more elephants, and then all hell broke loose. One of them caught on fire. One of them just took off. We don't know where it is. Good thing the FAA is not in Africa, because they would have been, we don't know where it went, and we're never going to get that thing back. One day they'll find it. Some gorilla or chimpanzee is going to have it over there. And it was really, it turned into the second half was a nightmare of a trip. They just stopped working. They just stopped working for reasons that we couldn't figure out. You know, I've been doing drone research for a long time. This is like second nature to me. And we just had problem after problem after problem. And one of the main issues that we think was the problem is this is equatorial Africa. It's really hot. It's really humid. There's no air conditioning at all. None. It is 80 degrees, 80, 85 degrees, and 90% humidity 24/7, right? You never get a break from that. And the electronics never get a break from that, right? So if the electronics are that sensitive, then this really isn't a scalable model. And what made it worse was we had many drones out there with us, and so when the one caught on fire, we started using that one for parts, and then the one took off. We're like, oh, we still got more, but they break, and they break for whatever reasons. And the next major difficulty we had, and the reason we could not leave one behind for them, which was our goal, was because the eco guards here, nice guys, but we couldn't teach them to solder. They couldn't solder, which is kind of a critical skill when you're doing these kinds of vehicles. They couldn't hook up the computer to read the diagnostics off to at least, if we were back in North Carolina, to tell us what is happening, right? And our guide, he's a former French Legion person, he just told us, if it doesn't really work right out of the box, and it requires really any technical skills beyond replacing batteries, he's like, we just can't do it. We can't use it. So thanks for bringing this drone out here, but you need to take it back. We left him a GoPro. They love that. So I tell you the story to tell you that drones are fantastic. I'm a huge supporter of them, but there's a lot of lower-lying systemic issues that if we really are going to take these things and move them into a commercial space, there's still a lot of work to be done. I think the state of Nevada has a chance because you have a UAS test site and you have a lot of up-and-coming skill in this area, that thinking about these issues, thinking about drone maintenance, thinking about air traffic control, getting into this space is something that, I don't think you really think of yourselves as a transportation industry state, but you're about to become one. Whether you like it or not. So I think it's good to try to get ahead of that wave so that you can start to define the projects that are coming out in the future instead of riding on the coattails. So what am I doing now? Well, this picture right here, this is a drone, but who can tell me what these are? Who can see? Anybody? Bees. So at Sandy Miller today, I had all the kids do for me. I'm like, so tell me what a drone sounds like. They were perfect. Where are my Sandy Miller kids? Do it for me. Very good, very good. Yes, that was great. These drones, even the small ones, sound like a weed eater over your head, right? But it turns out that when we were in Africa, one of the other problems that we had was that we take the drones off, and as soon as the drones got close to the elephants where they could hear them, and in fact, they have this amazing snorkeling thing. They could they'd hear us from about a mile away. Their little snouts would come up, and they would snorkel, and they would start doing like a radar scan for that drone. And we didn't understand why they were so disturbing, but it turns out elephants don't have a natural predator, but they are afraid of bees. And they will run from bees. And you have not lived until you've seen a herd of elephants running either at you or near you. And we're all in like some kind of old Jeep, it looked like something out of Mutual of Omaha, for those of you who are old enough to remember that. It was just kind of crazy, right? So, but this could be a dual edge. They're actually thinking, because of some of the research we did, they're thinking of using drones to keep elephants out of gardens, because that's another problem that they have in Africa, that the elephants actually will go where the vegetation is, including the gardens that people are growing. So it's one way to keep them away. But obviously, there are sometimes you don't want to keep them away. You want to keep them close when the poachers are coming after them. So we've got to figure out a way to change either the engine design or the way that the airframes are designed to try to reduce the frequencies and or the decibels. So we're kind of doing that research. You'll see a paper coming out from us soon about basically the acoustic problems with drones. But that just isn't an elephant problem. I got news for you. I mean, if Amazon had their way and Walmart, the air would be around us all the time. So it's a bigger problem that we need to solve in the community. The picture here is training. We're working with the U.S. Army to try to understand the training requirements. And in fact, I just got a new $1 million grant from the Office of Naval Research to define exactly what does it take in terms of skills and rule-based and knowledge for people to operate drones, particularly at different kind of mission levels, so that we can put an end to this. Do you need to be a pilot? Do you need to be an air traffic controller? Truly, what are the core sets of skills that we should be designing for? And last but not least, I'd like to tell you about another project that I'm just starting here, the Intrepid Museum. It's an old aircraft carrier that's a museum in New York City. I just started curating an exhibit for them on drones. It's going to be the first national end-to-end drone exhibit, meaning we're starting with the V2. For those of you World War II buffs, these were the unguided one-way bombs that were essentially drones that were used against the British. And then all the way up through history to the present day of both commercial use of drones, arts and entertainment, some of the movie production companies, for example. And so this is exciting because, well, it is both exciting and a little disturbing. Both aircraft carriers I have ever landed on are now museums. And now I'm curating a museum exhibit. I'm like, ooh, you know, and the governor thinks I'm old. I'm just like, oh my God, this is terrible. And I'm just teasing. You know, but so I can't decide, is being asked to curate a museum piece, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? But I'm going to try to embrace it as a good thing and tell you that for those of you who are out there in industry, we're looking for videos. We want to do some of the drone racing that's been really popular out here in Nevada. We actually want to have some simulator drone racing so people can sit inside the museum exhibit and see what that feels like. We're looking for people who want to do static displays, any other videos that you have. So any of my drone aficionados out there, please feel free just to email me and see if you want to be part of this exhibit. But I think this is a good message for, you know, the focus of this drone exhibit is very clearly on the path forward. The military part of it only takes up a little piece in this exhibit. It's a necessary part of history. There's been a lot of controversy, and I actually sit on a lot of national committees about the ethical use of autonomous weapons. And so, but what's interesting to me about that is, as the commercial applications really start to come up, that argument and that debate has gotten quieter and quieter because people realize now that this technology, which began as a military technology, and yes, there are some moral and ethical implications that we could discuss later, but like many military technologies, it has now left the military and has a huge commercial landscape. And the state of Nevada is really poised to take advantage of this in ways that many other states cannot. And one of my big stomping points is the next big thing after this is going to be flying cars. And you kind of laugh, but I promise you it's coming. Driverless cars are going to meet drone, and then we're going to have the Jetsons age that we want. And I was telling the Sandy Miller kids today, for you 40 and over crowd, it's probably not going to happen on any scale that you will be able to appreciate in your lifetime. But the kids at Sandy Miller are going to be, it's going to be like Uber, or I say, you know, Lyft has the name going for them, where you'll be able to use your cell phone to call your driverless, your flying car to pick you up and take you somewhere. So it's in the future, and I think this is a great state to see that development happen. Thank you so much for all your time and support.
Well, that is a remarkable story, and I'm glad I'm not going to be around to fly those cars or see those cars flying. I'm not sure I could handle that, but thank you for that wonderful presentation and the vision, and for being part of our history here in Nevada. So I want to thank all of you on behalf of the Foundation for coming to the dinner, and look forward to next year. As many of you have heard, I'll be moving on to a new challenge in higher education to New Mexico. I just want to say a couple of words. It's been a privilege and an honor to serve as DRI's president for 16 years, going on 17. It's been with great pride that I have served the communities here in Las Vegas and Reno, living in both of those. It's been something that Beth and I have deeply enjoyed. I've thoroughly appreciated and valued to serve as an institution leader in Nevada System's higher education. DRI is taking some remarkable steps in its 56-year history. It's taking on some new opportunities, some new challenges, leveraging its capabilities. This is your globally recognized institution. Take care of it, and it will thrive. So thank you all for that. I also want to say there's some logistics here. Don't forget your pledge cards and drop them off in the back. And for those who have sponsored tables, the boxes are under there to put your drones in, along with your FAA registration and flight rules. Thank you all. It's been wonderful being here for 16 years. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.